It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll get back to economics and tariffs and stuff like that in just a moment. But you have to hear, we got to make sure we get in the DNC picking their chairperson this weekend. And it got to be quite interesting. We already played where all of them agreed that racism and misogyny was the reason that they lost. They're not going to change. And just to show you the uniqueness of their of their party, here's this.
And we'll begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 30 seconds, and we'll start with Dr. Quintessa Hathaway.
Good evening, everyone. It is my desire to be the next DNC chair, and I just want to give you all a little bit of something that's been on my heart here over the last couple of days. You fight on, you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on, oh, you fight on.
That was the statement. You have your 30 seconds here.
Okay.
Here's what I'm gonna do.
Is there time for rebuttal?
I don't know. I disagree with you.
I was going to go with Inagata-Devita, but that's just me. I mean, I don't know. What do I know?
And then, this is complete lunacy. Here they are during, I think this was the voting for somebody. But it really doesn't matter. Listen to this. So listen to the problem that they ran into trying to figure out how to have DEI fully in to the election.
Rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. With the results of the previous 4 elections, our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race. We have to elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules. To do this, our process will be slightly different than the one outlined to you earlier this week. But I hope you will see that in practice, it is simple and transparent.
Simple and transparent. It's the new and improved DNC. Okay, so let me translate. We are never going to win another election.
Well,
by the way, I'm going to also enter something else here, and because if I were there, I would say, what about non-gender people? They haven't introduced that one yet.
Oh, you're right.
Non-gender. Yeah. Non-gender, because he said 1 male, 1 female. By the way, how dare you and how dare you? And 3, someone from any gender. What about non-gender? I'm a non-gender person in GP, for short. If you're not, this is the problem with their whole DEI approach. They won't be able to get through because the rules will change on the fly. He just said it toward the end. That's different than what you heard last week. The rules changed from last week. Well, see, this is different. We just want to update everybody because their rule book changes on the fly. Yeah.
All right, here's Trump yesterday on tariffs.
Okay.
Here we go. All right.
Are you planning to increase the tariffs against Canada?
Well, it could happen. If they do anything, we will. Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there.
Okay, here's Pierre Poilievre, the opposition leader to Trudeau in Canada. Here we go.
Okay.
I'd like to speak first to our American friends. You are our friends. You are our neighbors. We share the longest undefended border in the history of the world. You buy our products, and we buy yours. You have a trade surplus with us when energy is excluded. And when it is included, the deal is even better for you because you buy our oil and our gas at massive price discounts. Not because we're nice Canadians, but because here at home we've made really dumb decisions to prevent us from exporting our energy to any other countries. But either way, Americans are better off with this friendship. We share a continent, we share the same risks and the same potential enemies from around the world. Those kinds of enemies can metastasize into real dangers and actual attacks, as you saw suddenly and unexpectedly on 9/11. It's good to have friends when those sorts of things happen.
All right, so Trump, when he talks about $200 billion, when he talks about subsidies, it's interesting because we're not giving Canada $200 billion in subsidies.
Right.
Last year, I believe the trade deficit, including oil, was like $60 billion. So he's calling that a subsidy. He's trying to make it seem as if you have a trade imbalance, you're giving somebody something and you're getting nothing in return.
Right.
Which, of course, is not true because you're simply bartering money for a product.
Right. That's what trade is.
Right. You're giving them cash and they're giving you money. But why do they accept your cash? Because they eventually have to buy a good or service from the United States. Eventually, right. Even if they trade it, even if they go through the international currency exchange and it goes through Japan, Poland, wherever, it eventually has to come back. That dollar has no worth if we don't produce anything. Right. The ruble, for example, has been worthless for such a long time because they don't produce anything that the people want. So calling that a subsidy, that was confusing until you figured out what he was talking about with the subsidy. But the amount is inaccurate. Also, he said that they're tough with us with oil. I have no idea what he's talking about because we verified what Poilievre said. The oil comes at a discount. And the first thing, if it's a problem for Trump, I have no idea why the first thing that he did was open up the Keystone Pipeline, which is only for Canadian oil coming into the United States.
Right.
Now, the funny thing is that Canada, and Poilievre's like, it's stupid. We don't sell at a discount. Because I was always wondering, were they talking about selling at a discount? What he's saying is Canadian law won't let them sell to anybody else. So they got this glut of oil. So they sell it to the United States cheap. Trump wants it so bad. That's the first thing he did the first day was to open up the Keystone Pipeline to get that going again. And then he says that's one of the problems he's putting the tariffs. It doesn't make sense. Right. It doesn't make sense. As to the banking thing and the when he talks about farm products or whatever, Mr. President, you wrote that deal with Canada. You said it was the best trade deal ever, and now you wish to wipe it out completely. There needs to be an explanation to the American people why your trade deal that you negotiated and you said was the greatest trade deal ever has failed miserably.
Because the question has to be, are you trying to rewrite USMCA? Is that your ultimate? I haven't seen anyone mention from the administration or even any GOP lawmaker on Capitol Hill that the end goal here is a new USMCA.
Politically, this is a no-win for him. I don't know what his goal is. I don't know what the parameters are to lift the tariffs, but I wouldn't be surprised if in a week or so it just, okay, we've got this from them. Just like, remember, USMCA, where they got, they decided, let's throw out a couple of things that we did. But as we said, they didn't change anything in NAFTA.
Right.
But people wish to believe it, so we said, fine. If everybody wants to believe it, okay, we got a tough trade deal now. We went, it's really the same as NAFTA. They didn't hardly change at all around the edges, a little bit here or there, but 97, 98% of it was the same. And everybody loved it. And all the Trump supporters thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And now Trump's saying that it's failed. He didn't say that USMCA failed, but everything that he's listing is supposed to be in the trade agreement that he did.
Right.
And he said it was the greatest ever.
Right.
So what is it? And nobody else is talking about redoing USMCA, even though he has just destroyed the credibility of the United States doing a trade deal, not because of the Mexico thing with the fentanyl, because everybody knows it's not fentanyl for Canada. Everyone knows that's BS that the Trump administration is throwing out.
Right.
Now, the good thing is Trump admitted for the first time ever as president in his first or second term that the American public will probably feel harm because of this. And at least that's what we asked for up front when you had J.D. Vance out there before the election saying, there's no problem with tariffs, and Trump out there going, wonderful, there's no downside, everything's great. And we said, you're not telling the American public the truth.
Right.
And now they're getting closer to telling the American public the truth. Oh, okay, you may hurt because of this, but the hurt will be worth the spectacular economy coming after.
Interesting note, and looking at all the coverage of all of this, when it comes to China, the Trump administration coming in, Trump asked for an investigation to see if China was being compliant with the 2020 trade agreement that they did. Now, the story didn't go on and explain this. My question would be, one of many questions, does Trump think Biden wasn't holding China and holding them to that agreement? Or does he believe that China just wasn't living up to the agreement overall? I mean, it could be either or both in that situation. But with Canada, USMCA has been in place. I've heard nothing of, we're going to rewrite USMCA. Did Trudeau mention USMCA the other day in his statement? I don't know that he did. If he did, I missed it. But typically what you would see is Mexico and Canada say, well, this is a violation of USMCA. We have an agreement, blah, 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 blah. And I really haven't seen that pushed to the surface. If they said that at some point, the media didn't really focus on that. And I haven't seen anything from the administration or any GOP leadership on Capitol Hill in that regard of, again, we're going back to the table on USMCA. Haven't seen any of that.
Nope. It's like, no, this is about the fentanyl, but all the complaints are about trade.
Right. Now,
or the growing number of complaints now over the last couple of days is the true reason they want tariffs.
Right. Now, the question would be, they're using the fentanyl excuse. With Mexico, it applies all day.
Right.
And somewhat with China. But with Canada, not so much. But are they using that as the leverage to say, well, you guys, because if they hear, let's say, today or over the next couple of days, Mexico and Canada both say, hey, this is a violation of USMCA, blah, 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 blah. And Trump says, nope, it's a violation when you guys are letting so much fentanyl across the border, manufacturing it in Mexico, and, and that's his piece for getting back to the actual tariff. I don't know. I'm workshopping this because nobody's talking. I have no idea.
No, you're right. You're right. They're not, there isn't like a thing that comes out. As we talked about yesterday, when the president put out his statement, and we focused on the fact he says there could be pain, maybe not, but there could be pain, but the pain will be worth it. It's like, wow, he's actually talking the truth about tariffs where they haven't been.
Right.
It's wonderful. It's going to be great. Americans won't suffer at all. Now it's like, oh, okay, you better watch out. Now somebody got to him in the White House. Somebody told him.
Yeah, because he's never said anything close to that.
Right. If you plan on keeping this in, there could be pain for the American public. You need to warn them of this.
You need to tell people to brace.
Because you solely get the blame if prices go up.
Yeah. There
There is nobody else to blame. There's not a Republican to blame. But this is you. You own it if this doesn't work. And I think that's why he did it. But the other thing is where he's talking about the fact that we have a deficit with these countries and somehow trying to relate that to our deficit, which makes no sense at all.
The national debt, yeah.
Making it to the national debt. One doesn't apply to the other one at all.
Right.
And it's just like, that's just weird. I'm like, okay, they've been really good in, they've come up now with their rapid response.
Yeah.
And they've been really good focusing on this is a maze to get out of this one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Need firewood for your fireplace or wood-burning stove to counter what has been an extremely cold winter at times this season? The rule of thumb is,
buy firewood where you burn it.
According to Catherine Bronsky of USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, to avoid accidental transport of invasive plant pests and diseases when transporting firewood. And when buying wood from a locale close to you,
make sure that you are purchasing certified heat-treated firewood to kill any pests that may have been in it or on it.
As that specific firewood is the only type considered safe for transport. How can consumers identify it?
Properly heat-treated firewood will feature a USDA APHIS heat treatment seal or a State Department of Agriculture-based heat treatment seal indicating that it is safe to move.
Specific quarantine information on plant pests, including firewood movement restrictions, are available online at www.aphis.usda.gov. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our crony, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh.
Huh?
Yeah, I should note that with all the gender stuff at the DNC, they ended up electing as a DNC chair Ken Martin, a white man, and David Hogue, the gun control activist, another white man.
Yeah.
So after all the gender stuff, two white men got the nod for the Democrats.
Good job.
Both as radical as you can get. The new DNC chair called for Trump to be charged with treason.
Yeah, okay. By the way, I heard his name, Ken Martin, and then I thought Ken Jennings from Jeopardy. I thought, is the host of Jeopardy going to lead the Democratic Party? Oh, wrong Ken. Okay.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right.
Yeah. What do you got?
This one from quick audio here from Donna Brazile, former head of the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Under fire. You saw the one story out there, the report out there that there were people that had applied to be an air traffic controller that were refused just because of their skin color. We'll see whether that was where that investigation goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been going on. So Donna Brazile decides to give this intelligent take on it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Well, I just want to reassure the American people that flying is safe. I've been on airplanes all my adult life.
It is.
And I've been on a plane with 2 female pilots and say, wow, this is going to go fast.
What?
The gender of the pilots have nothing to do with how fast the plane goes. It wasn't going faster or slower because they had 2 female pilots.
What? Look, the dynamics of aviation. I'm not an aviation engineer. However, I have some questions. This is going to go fast? What? Going faster? Get you there sooner.
Man, I'm telling you, that medical jet that went down in Philadelphia, when I first saw it, didn't it look like a missile?
It was.
Oh.
It was when the videos and witness videos started coming in. You just, especially the one doorbell cam, because you saw it and it was like, wait a minute, this jet's already in flames as it's coming down, and then the massive explosion as it hits the ground. And always a tragic story. This is a medical transport jet with 6 people on board. All 6 are dead, and 1 person on the ground in a car.
Oh, that one car was like 100 feet away, the one that was burned out. And I'm like, they never saw it coming. I mean, that thing hit.
It was just, it happened so fast.
And the angle, did you see?
It just,
I finally yesterday, because, yesterday, one of the local TV stations, in their helicopter coverage of going around and looking at it, spread it out far enough so I could actually see the debris field. And then it made sense where you saw where it hit the impact zone. And then when the debris field went, you see that guy that was like a quarter mile away in a restaurant and a part came flying right through the window and hit him in the head. And the camera caught it. But that Dunkin' Donuts right there, I can't believe that nobody wasn't killed because that was flying. Shrapnel and flames were at that, even though it looked like the jet fuel went in a very narrow band, ahead where you could see some cars on one side weren't touched and the other ones were burned completely. But I think those people got out. I'm assuming it had to be the person up close in that car that was killed. But the angle it came down, if you saw where the impact zone was and that sign right there, the mall sign, you could see it got clipped by the wing or something, and it showed you how steep the trajectory was.
Like straight down.
It wasn't straight down, but
by
as
the
close
time
as you could get.
By the time it got to altitude of 100 feet, it was going. At that point, it was going straight down or in a very narrow
it was
field in terms of the landing field.
Yeah, it was going forward because you could see the debris field go forward on it, and there was nothing. See the cars behind, like 50 feet behind, not touched.
Well, I guess my point is you talked about the plane crash in Buffalo.
That one came straight. The Colgan Air.
Yeah,
that came straight down,
like straight down.
Right, but that stalled and came down like that.
Right. This one coming out of the clouds looked like it was doing the same thing. It was nosediving, but it was. I mean, this thing was falling.
I think
with
that
the Lear jet.
But I think the one, because you're talking about the door cam where that guy's walking out, and you see it looks like it's
two
coming
different.
through the clouds.
There's a door cam and actually one or
but
two different
that
dash
one,
cams.
That one looks like, and I think there's just some distortion because of the cloud, because that thing looks like the wind pushed it over almost. Or it was coming like this, and it just went, and then looked like it was coming straight down. The other one,
the debris was cutting through the clouds. The clouds made it look like that.
Yeah. The other one that was I don't know how to describe it. The other one which was on the streets. The street cameras of it you could see the angle of it coming in, but it still looked like a missile.
Right,
it really did.
Yeah.
Let's head back to you on economics and tariffs. We go to David in Washington State. David, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi there. I'll try to make this quick. Okay, so during Obama, drywall that came from China was at $3.50, and then it jumped up to nearly $15 for the same stuff coming from China. And I was told that had to do with NAFTA and the trade stuff that they had going on. Now, that's one thing. Maybe you can explain.
Yeah, NAFTA had nothing to do with anything with China. NAFTA is was a North American free trade agreement, which is between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. China's not involved in that.
Okay. Well, they had told me that it was because of the trade agreement that now we had to get the product through Canada shipped to us instead of straight from China to us. And so that was the extra $10.
Okay. That could be the case. I'll look into it.
Okay, and then now I know this is a huge mess, but and it may not be able to be brought back. But I think that one cost that's being missed is the cost of the lack of quality. Now that things are made in Mexico and China, I buy light switches where half of them don't work. Toilet valves that are made in Mexico. It's hard to find one that'll last more than 3 months. Buying table saws and sawzalls, I had them last for 25, 30 years, and now I've had to buy 3 within 10 years. So there's the cost of that. So I'd rather pay a little more to get a better quality, but we may not have the people here in the U.S. that understand tolerances, torque specifications, so we may not get that back.
David, you may have heard me.
Hoping for.
Yeah, David, you may have heard me say earlier, people shop for the best value, and the reason I use value and not necessarily price, because we don't shop that way. Well, I mean, I'm kind of like you are. I'm looking for something. I'm willing to pay more if it's a good product or going to last longer. And there's a lot. There are a lot of things. I could go through the whole list of things that I've got around my house and tools and everything else. The newer ones that aren't as good as the older ones, and a whole list of reasons. And sometimes it goes back to regulation. Well, we can't use that motor, and now we can't use this, and everything else. There's a ton of influence there. By the way, that 2008 drywall shortage, a lot of that was on the heels of the rebuilding efforts of Katrina and Rita, the 2 hurricanes. And what happened was
never went back down.
And what happened was, well, there's step 2, which is kind of what you alluded to, and that was the China drywall issue, I think you could say. And it was, they were finding because what they did when there was a shortage here stateside, they started importing some from China, and then they found it was like they had bacteria and stuff in it. I don't know if that happened in transit. I don't know all the details on that, but it was a mess. So it kind of stalled that regrouping after those rebuilding efforts. It kind of kept staggering for a while, affecting the drywall supply. I do remember that because it
would go back down in price.
Yeah, and I do remember that. I was actually doing some projects back then, and everybody was talking about it. But there are a number of things here, that we can talk about in terms of value and everything else. But ultimately, you kind of alluded to it, the American worker is going to demand higher pay, and by the way, you're going to have manufacturers willing to come here and start that process all over again. It's not cheap. If they want to, but previous callers have said, well, why not move back to the U.S.? Moving your manufacturing in order to get out of the way of a government is an expensive process. It's not a cheap thing to do.
But we've lost the training. We don't have the people that understand, as I say, tolerances and torque specifications and just simple parameters of how things should be put together. It seems like the quality is so poor. I bought a brand new Ford truck that was assembled in Mexico, and the door panels don't fit, the windows are loose, now the electronics are going bad. All this stuff when my last Ford truck lasted me 30 years. And so if we could, I'm just always hopeful that somehow we can get that back, but it feels like it may be lost here in America with what's going on. One last point about energy. I was born and raised and lived for 50 years in Santa Barbara, California. And working as a land surveyor, I would be down through Ojai and Santa Rosa Creek and Carpinteria, and I would see oil during the summer, raw crude oil pumping, just running out of the hillside down into the creeks and out into the ocean. And I would call OSHA and ask them about that, and they would say, oh, that's just natural seepage.
Yeah.
And, the funny thing is we used to pump it and use it and do stuff with it, and now they're just letting it run out into the ocean.
Oh, that's been going on for been going on for a long time. Yeah. We talk about that, what nature actually shoves to the surface. We could be using, but states like California don't want to do that.
Or the oil. Remember the oil slick off of Canada that came from natural underground.
Yes,
on the ocean bottom. There was oil seeping up through that way too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Times of the year, the ocean is just one giant slick, and that just happens naturally.
Yep.
And nobody seems to mention it or pay attention to it. I want to go down and take pictures and show them, look, this is pouring out of the hillside. And you people are complaining about the.
They know it. It's been a news story for the longest time.
Been. Thanks, David.
Thanks so much. And I might want to apply the lemon law to my Ford there, if I were you. I mean,
if you have a new one and there's an issue there, then
that sounds like you had a number of issues that might take you to.
Well, I mean, we can go through. I mean, the list of both domestic and foreign manufacturers, especially when it comes to trucks, in recent years. You just get on the old Googles and it'll tell you that there's a problem. And the reason there's a problem is because of all the CAFE standards and all the efficiency standards and everything else. Well, we're going to make it it's going to be a V6. It's no longer a V8. Now we're going to do this technology. Now we're going to make the body a lot lighter. We're going to do all of these things. And so you can find a list of complaints about the newer trucks and everything else, and then point to the older trucks. Trucks you can't get in the States that you can get elsewhere because of efficiency standards. Obviously, those are foreign makes. The Toyota Hilux comes to mind. But there are, a number of things that if you're going to fit that standard set by the government, you're going to have to change a lot of things.
Oh, man.
And you're not going to make a big, heavy truck that is,
I hate it when I rent one of the vehicles. I don't have any of my vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
But when you rent the vehicle and you stop and the engine goes off.
Auto stop. Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Now you can, they've got the little button to push it, but you got to push it every time you get in the car.
And now my habit is to do that.
And that will, if I get one, that'll be my habit.
Yeah, because every car, every
and
new
they're like,
car
well,
has one.
they made the starter stronger. Did they really?
I don't buy it.
Did they really make the starter stronger?
I don't buy it.
Where I have to start, where you think about when you drive normally, that okay, so my starter goes off 50 times more often, and they made it. I don't buy it. And the other thing I always wonder about is the torque differential inside when you talk about in an engine when it goes from running 4 cylinders to 2.
Right. When they change that when they go
what do
from
they call it? Ecosystem or something?
6 to 4 and then
6 to 4.
That created a number of problems.
I went, my God, you're going to have problems.
Square peg into a round hole. You can't do that. It just doesn't. The engineering doesn't work.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So it will be interesting to see what happens over the next few days. Tariffs will be in the news, though, all week.
Well, I think the media may have some questions for President Trump today. One of them would be, you mentioned in your post on social media that this might cause pain. Did you mean that? And because you said maybe, maybe not. Well, what kind of pain, blah, 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 basically make him say it out loud. What would be that pain? Well, it would be, of course, financial pain. And also, are you renegotiating USMCA? That has to be another question today. We'll see if anybody asks that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.